guests. We've got Mr. Sridhar of IndoStar joining us this morning and Mr. Singh as well of the Indian Foundation of Transport Research and Training. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Mr. Sridhar, let me start off with you. In terms of the CV cycle, where are we now? When do you expect the pickup? How is demand for credit panning out?
As you all aware, CV is a cyclical industry. So the cyclical down started about a year back. And now you have a slowing GDP. On top of it, the impact of COVID. So all these things are definitely affecting the sale of new vehicles. And that's the usual trend that happens during the down cycle. But this time it's the intensity is very high due to slowing GDP as well as the COVID impact. So it's difficult to predict when the demand will revive. But actually, if you look at within the CV industry, with regard to the performance, few sections have been deeply impacted. The one is the fleet owners. The fleet owners who are actually dependent on the industrial production and deploying vehicles on the national highway have been impacted on multiple grounds. One is definitely the driver shortage, the load shortage, the freight rates, lower freight rates, loading, unloading people have left to their hometowns. So these are all multiple challenges they are facing, and fortunately because of the moratorium, people have been able to manage. Now the moratorium is coming to an end. We have to see how it is going to cope up. We are able to see amongst the NBFCs, about 2/3 of the truck operators have been able to pay. The 1/3 is actually struggling. That is affecting the fleet owners. The second one is on the passenger commercial vehicles, which had been actually bought by the migrant people. So those people have left for their hometowns, and because of that, the Uber, Ola drivers, that is where the huge impact is there. So these are all the two. But when it comes to medium, small and light commercial vehicles, which are transporting on the state highways, the essential commodities, things are quite normal. So they are not impacted by this down cycle.
Okay, thanks for highlighting where we're seeing that strain when it comes to trucks and CVs. Mr. Singh, let me also, come to you. From your perspective as well, how have things panned out for truckers since the lockdown has been lifted, particularly segment-wise or geography-wise? And there are reports that, some transporters are at the verge of surrendering vehicles to financiers at the end of the moratorium, at the end of the month. What are you hearing?
You see, what Mr. Sridhar has comprehensively covered, he has stolen the thunder, So he has spoken every word I would have spoken if I was given the opportunity to speak first, So we are on the same page. That's the one thing, good for the people, because he's a veteran of this industry, So what we are finding is that in case of truck and buses, bus business is almost collapsed because there is hardly any transportation business coming for the passenger transport. In case of long, medium haulage vehicles, almost 50% of the vehicles are not able to pay their the installments, and the relief they have got due to moratorium, that is not going to last more than fortnight now, So the nervousness is creeping in that in September, how the restructuring will take place, how will they will be able to pay when the demand side for the vehicle and demand for the commodities, the middle class spendings are very poor. So under such circumstances, the biggest thing is that the people have either the vehicle will be repossessed or they will be surrendered, So that type of people, we are tracking about 75 medium and long haulage truck routes. And we have found that this tendency towards surrendering the vehicle or repossession is going to accentuate during the September and October. Even if government comes with a restructuring and other thing, the repayment is going to be a major challenge because earnings are very poor. The margins are very poor. Revenues, monthly revenues are absolutely dismal, So we believe that this repossession and surrender of vehicle is going to be an order of the day from next month onwards. Yeah.
If I can add on top.
Sridhar, I wanted to get in your view because analysts seem to be concerned when it comes to the asset quality and they expect a spike in NPAs over the next 6 months. Moratorium will be ending in August. How much do you expect to turn into bad assets, and also where do you stand when it comes to provisioning?
See, we have to accept that this is a very challenging period. Apart from the normal down cycle, you have a very slowing GDP and also impact of COVID. So because of this, the truck operators are facing whatever I have listed out, the challenges. But when it comes to the lenders, like NBFC, like us, we are not going to, recklessly go and repossess vehicles. As I've told you, that these two sections of the industry is struggling. One is that fleet owners, other one is the migrant drivers. These are all the two sections which have been hugely impacted. Now that the moratorium is ending, every NBFC industry has reported the moratorium. So it's around 30 to 35%. So around 1/3 of the customers have not been able to pay. And from September, there is a rescheduling is there. So the rescheduling is definitely going to be demanded by the customers who are still finding it difficult to ply the vehicle. But my point is that 35% of the people who have availed moratorium, that does not mean that they have not plied vehicle, earned money. See, when there is an opportunity of a moratorium, some people decide to take it, avail the moratorium, even though you have money, conserve cash, and then decide. So it is difficult to predict how much will become NPL and all that. In my opinion, very few surge will be there because reschedulement will be done and there is enough holiday will be given, which will see the COVID impact coming down. It will be there till December or January. After that, everyone will be able to pay money. So I don't think there is a need for a huge worry on NPL front because reschedulement is there. Once that is given, there will be no surge in NPL. And as I said, NBFCs understand their customers. They are not going to repossess vehicles recklessly and face liquidating those vehicles is going to be a problem in a situation where demand is very less. The surrendering of vehicle is by one or two, it may happen because in every vehicle, there is a equity of the customer. Sometimes in the fleet owner segment, there are companies and banks which have given 100% financing. They have given bodybuilding also. That is where if excess funding has been done by the lender, there is a possibility of the client customer surrendering it. But that is not the case in every situation.
You see, if I add on to the Mr. Sridhar said, the situation between, we have little contrarian view that the number of people who will not be able to come back and pay is going to be much large, despite financiers or NBFCs may not be reckless, but general view is that the business sentiments are going to be very bad and we are almost into a recessionary situation. And COVID solution, unless it doesn't come, vaccine does not come, we can definitely say that the business is not going to look up. And NBFCs doesn't have deep pockets that they'll keep on waiting for one quarter after another quarter. And they may not like to repossess the vehicle, but there will be a pressure on them that if the money is not coming, what to do with that, There will be the NPS. Till now, the moratorium, these are not NPS, but now next quarter onwards, these will be NPS, And that factor cannot be ignored, and that serious situation has to be appreciated because the bankers may not say it is a serious problem, but market says it is a serious problem. Yeah, that's what we are saying, as IFTR. Yeah, this is where we differ, Yeah.
To take that point forward, has there been any approach sort or help sort from policymakers in terms of relief measures? Given the fact that you're talking about these dealerships being under a lot of stress, inability to pay loans on time. So what kind of support is needed?
We have sought a lot of things from the government and regulator. I think they have given everything. The one is moratorium. It has been given for about 6 months. If the customers don't pay during that period, that is some working capital available with them. So that is one. The second one is now they have allowed one-time reschedulement. Earlier it was only given for private limited companies and proprietary firms, but the industry sought finance minister's indulgence in allowing that also to individuals. So that is also given. The 20% also the government guaranteed fund. Earlier it was given only to enterprise. We requested for individuals. That is also they have given. So I think moratorium, once it is over, reschedulement will be given instead of repossessing vehicles, because repossession of vehicle is going to be difficult for NBFCs to liquidate those vehicles in a scenario where there is no demand. So we will give reschedulement and tide over this crisis. We will partner with the customers. We will handhold with the customers. We understand, we empathize, and we know the situation on the ground. So we will give them more time, and there is equity, substantial equity of the customer there. Absolutely, there is no problem. And we are not much worried about NPL. NPL could go up a little bit here and there, 20, 30 basis points. But that every NBFC which are large can easily absorb. So we do feel very confident that the COVID situation will ease. And you have seen that in the last 3 months, it has, unlocking has happened. Trucks, there is no limitation, no restriction for them to ply. So the problem is only in the industrial production area where there is no mall. But when it comes to essential commodities, agriculture produce, enough load is available. They are all earning, they are paying. So absolutely there is no problem. So I am not painting any pessimistic picture there. But definitely there is a reschedulement is required. Definitely we have to tide over next 3 to 6 months. Once that is done, better days are ahead. And I have seen in my career 5 to 6 cycles like this. And truck operators have a resilience. They will come back. It's an asset which is directly linked to the economy. Without operating trucks, economy cannot move further. So the government is also aware of it. So I don't think there is any need for worry there.
One of the reasons for not demand is the BS6 vehicles are very costly and very difficult to maintain also, because the network of after sale is not that resilient of the dealers, of the manufacturer. And BS4 vehicles even now are those people who don't want to retain the bigger fleet, they want to shrink their fleet. They are selling the vehicles to the other fleet owners wherever they are able to sell the BS4 vehicles, because they know that BS4 vehicles will be maintainable. After sale issues are much less, So the question, demand for new vehicle not coming as because the industry is not operating at any optimum levels, so productions are down and demand, consumer spendings are down. The more important is that the BS6 vehicles are very costly, and this demand is not going to come back in next 2 to 3 quarters, as Mr. Sridhar also has shared. First, we have to consolidate the previous situation, come out of that difficulty. And that difficulty, to what extent optimism of Mr. Sridhar is there and what extent our caution is there, this we have to keep our fingers crossed here. That is what the point is.
Gentlemen, appreciate you taking the time out, just giving us a much clearer picture as to what exactly the situation stands at the current juncture for most of these transport facing the financial stress, and what policy support as well is needed. Good to have you on board.